Hey, Nick from Patchwerks here, and today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite modules as of recently, which is the Erica Synths Black sequencer. And it's something that I put in my case somewhat recently. I'm addicted to sequencers like a lot of us are, and this had replaced my Rene too. I was just looking for a sequencer that was like more oriented towards like standalone performance. Like, I love the Rene, and the way that it kind of deconstructs sequencing is really amazing, but I needed something that kind of had the built-in clock, more support for kind of song modes, quantization, recording things in, and this thing has it all. And I'm going to show you some of my favorite features of it today. So if we take a look at my case right now, you can see that the Black sequencer is in channel 1 hooked up to Platts, in channel 2 hooked up to Trident running through the SEM filter, both those going out, and then I'm using Pachinko clocked by the Black sequencer for some drums. So, you know, I also have the key step here, and you're like, why are you using the key step through this thing? It's a sequencer on its own, it has CV, MIDI, gate, all that stuff. I'm only going to use the MIDI because in my studio, I'm using a Nordwave keyboard. I really like that keyboard, and I want to use it to play and record sequences, and it just really streamlines my process because I like to gig out with this thing and I don't really need the keyboard, but I want to have that sort of intuition that I get when I play the keys that I don't quite have when I'm just using this interface, which by the way is pretty amazing, easy to punch notes in and out, change notes by just retaining the encoders, all of that. But I want to use the keyboard. So I have the MIDI running into the MIDI in, and it's actually just already working. So that's channel 1, that's Platts. Channel 2 is Trident. So right there, we already have the MIDI to CV conversion working very well. The next thing I want to do is that the way I compose is I want to use 64-step sequences. Again, this can be harder on certain sequencers that really limit the number of steps, but since it has a screen and the UI to support it, it's quite easy. We just go direction, range. I can click in these encoders and they'll change kind of, this is step 116. How do we get to 64? Well, we could either change encoder 2 or hit bar and see that arrow go down to 64 and click that. So channel 1, 64 steps, channel 2, 64 steps. Great. Now I want to set my quantizer because for the most part I'll be playing my notes right here, but I love the support of a quantizer, especially if I know what I'm doing. I want to use C minor, so shift quant. We have an input and output quantizer, so you could actually have the notes be quantized as you change them, but then you could also add like arbitrary control voltage to offset that note and then have that be quantized too. That was an added feature very recently, which is cool. So I changed my in to minor and my out to minor as well. Hit 16 to apply, and same thing with channel 2. So I set my in to minor and my out to minor. And one of the other cool things is that essentially I had created now a template for this particular pattern, and you know, if I want to make copies of that, I'll hit shift record to save it, and if I hit shift copy or copy and then this pattern and click it, so pattern 2 copied, and now when I hold down paste in 3 and 4, now I have those 64 steps with my scales. So I got my template, and it's going to be easy for me to quickly iterate if I want to. I'm only going to use one pattern for this one though. Okay, so let's start recording some things. If I hear those notes, I'm going to make it really busy because I'm using probability to kind of make it more sparse, but I'll hit play and we'll hear the pachinko go. I'll wait one time around and I'll start putting in notes. And here we go. Cool. Hit record, so now it's armed. So that's awesome because it took those notes and it put it to the grid. You could tell that my playing isn't really super on point. Hey, that's okay. This will put it to the grid. There is micro timing and you can cancel that if you so wish, but I like that. And you might have seen that I think I might have hit an A instead of an A flat, but it quantized that over. So that was that safety net that I really like. We'll go to channel 2 and maybe listen to it and do like a counter, kind of a counter melody of sorts. And I could play. But it's not recording, I'm just auditioning it. If I record, then it'll start actually recording it. So awesome. I like that a lot. Now let's add the probability. One of the coolest things about this, before we even add the probability, say if I want to take all these notes and move it up an octave, right? How hard would that be in other sequencers where you have to dial it in step by step? This one's super easy. If I just hit Shift and Data, it allows me to select kind of arbitrary steps here across arbitrary bars. So right now, let's go to bar 1, hit Shift that. So that says select them all. So if I click this, it just selects all of them. And when we play, if I want to bring it up an octave, I could just hold Shift and turn any one of these encoders. All right, cool. So I love that. But what if I only want the third beat or the third 16th note of every note of channel 2 to be changed? I could just hit Data, and they will have a mask for that. So let's see. There it is. I select that, Shift up. So now, cool, love it. And what if I want every note to hit? Same thing. Go back to selection, select everything, turn gates. If I click this, it just turns them all on. So that's very busy. So let's introduce that sparseness. If I hit Shift probability, we get percentages, and I could do the mask thing again. Now let's use the last 3 steps of every pattern and make those 75%. So select that, turn these down to 75, and so we'll always get the downbeat, but then the rest of the notes will be a quarter, like 3/4 of the time they'll trigger. Cool, I like that. And let's just do the same thing for channel 1. So that'll also be 7. Well, we'll make that 90%. Why not? We can do it. And we could even say, let's do something even weirder. Let's pick one of these arbitrary patterns here. This one, and we'll say those we actually want to be 50% or dialed down. Like they kind of start stacking. So you can see the ones that were set to 75 are now 50, and the ones that are 100 are now 75. So. Cool. Last thing I want to do is automate this harmonics knob. That changes the tables that are actually being read in through Plats. So the way that I would want to do that is if I have a cable, I want to record it kind of like electron style. I want to use this encoder here to record modulation in. So first, I'll take the output. This sends out a static voltage. This is the quadrat. And if I go into mod in, and I hit Shift, or setup record, right now it says MIDI because we're using the MIDI controller. I want to do analog because that's an analog input. Overdub, so when I record, it's not going to overdub the notes, but it will overdub that mod channel. And mod record set to on. So we're set up. So here we go, CV. Let's deselect everything just by clicking that encoder. And when I hit play, nothing will happen until I hit record. So, and we can go over to our mod channel. You can see there's nothing there. I'm going to hit record and play, and you'll see immediately it'll start recording that and playing it back. In fact, I need to still set up that patch. So mod 1 over to harmonic. So here we go. So I stopped hitting record so it didn't actually overdub, because you can see now if I hit record and turn that, it'll replace what's going on there, which is a great way to, you know, if you knew where to play this knob, or if you're selecting samples here, you could actually just kind of punch in your overdubs by hitting record. And that's also a really fun workflow that I love to do on my Electron devices, so my Black sequencer gives it to me. So overall, we came up with this very quickly, but we're using a lot of the features of the Black sequencer that I just haven't really seen in a lot of other Eurorack modules, and the interface just makes it a snap. So like I always say, just save it, save that pattern. I've accidentally changed stuff and completely blown that, but we could copy that over, we can transpose it, we can do other cool tricks. There's tons of different possibilities to drive just one sequence, and the Black sequence gets it to you. So that's why I love it. Anyway, if you have any more questions, always feel free to reach out. You could either call us, you can email us, or come into the shop. We'd be more than happy to help you. And as always, have a great week and happy patching.